Hey everybody, Shannon Scott here. I just wanted to share with you guys this great silver albumen print that I received today from a collector I deal with a lot. That was done on March 31st, 1896 of Johnson Square in Savannah, Georgia by William E. Wilson. And what was interesting to me about this capture, if you will, was that the real predominant name associated with early Bonaventure stereo views, Bonaventure Cemetery, city architecture, etc., was Jerome Nelson Wilson, or J.N. Wilson. So when I saw William E. Wilson, I'm like, wait a second, is this a son? Is this a brother? Is this a whole family dynamic? And there was some of that around J.N. Wilson, but this was not entirely familiar to me. And there was some great graffiti on the back of this image that I'll show you here in a minute. But I knew that the photo had to be after 1886 because the high relief bronze plaque of Nathaniel Greene, who was buried in this square, he was Washington's second in command and all the rest. I knew that that was post 1886. And then the City Exchange, or City Hall down there at Bay and Bull, was torn down in the earliest part of the 1900s for the current City Hall. So I knew that this photo lived, or production lived, somewhere between the two. But the question was William related to J.N.? And in the end, we satisfied that by calling J.N. Wilson's great-great-granddaughter Tina Wilson. And she was not entirely familiar or sure, but we found that William E. Wilson actually has a Wikipedia page. Of course he does. And it turns out William E. Wilson was born in England, and he died young at, I think they say 52 years of age in 1904, so not horribly long after this picture was taken. But he grew up in Charleston starting at 2 years of age, and eventually was advertising himself as a landscape photographer in Savannah. And I'll show you something in a moment that has an address for Broughton Street around the corner at Bull and Broughton, where there were a whole bunch of photographers, and I'm going to go ahead and say merchants that sold the wares of those photographers. That building still stands at Bull and Broughton, and they would have been very smallish studio rooms overall, I think, especially in the period. But nonetheless, this guy was a master. He captured such great details. We'll get down in it here a little bit. You see the little boy, who I believe is black, walking through the square, a bit blurry. He's got a little, I don't know, like a straw hat on, or maybe a railroad engineer style cap. But we see Levi J. Gazan, the tobacconist, which earlier that was a Bick, B-Y-C-K family enterprise. This is the Pulaski Hotel of 1835. And you see those little arches down there at the bottom along the sidewalk? Looks like a little dome, two of them there. That's where 100 years later they found that this hotel had accommodations for slaves with shackles in little cells against the walls. That was kind of an eye-opening minute. But this was the luxury hotel in that period. There were only this was one of three hotels, and it's famously associated with Little Gracie, who was buried in Bonaventure. She was dead by the time this photo was taken, by a few years, but anyway. The cupola way up there at the top, which had kind of an octagonal shape, 360 view, flagpole there way at the top. I'm getting a little shadow from my window, so I'm going to move this around a smidge, but I love how the obelisk, which is sword styled there with the handle, showing kind of the burial of a great warrior, Nathaniel Greene, Major General Nathaniel Greene. I like how that disappears. So it was either really a bright day when this was taken, which is my guess, or it may have been hazy. But, you get down in here and you can see, looks like trash on the street on one side, maybe some debris, but there's like a Burrum carriage way down there on the far right. And then that R.G. Dunn something or something there, which is interesting that they had a sign on the City Exchange or City Hall government building. By the way, that 18th century clock is the one you see on the current City Hall. That did survive, which is pretty cool, kind of special, an 18th century clock in a 20th century building. Early, I'm going to call them telephone poles. We've got a couple wires up here that got caught in the image there, which is interesting. They kind of disappear along the way there, but some early wires, or maybe it was, I guess, probably telegraph, but don't know entirely the function of that, but there they are. Gentlemen walking down the road there, a little bit blurry. This building on the far right, which is really interesting, is basically full of painters and painting businesses. Look at that. Merchant, painters, parlor, maybe a barber shop. We see the barber shop patterning over there with the zigzag, although they're house painting. Flood and Gray Painters. What a name for a business, Flood and Gray. So I don't know if they were just kind of showing off their wild pattern painting skills, which does remind me of some Victorian wallpaper, or that's actually like a barber shop. But anyway, very cool. And the green monument. But the back really intrigued me. One, we find the date of March 31st, 1896. We see someone in the same hand is writing, Major General Nathaniel Greene, born in Rhode Island, 1742, died in Georgia, 1786. Heat stroke, by the way. Soldier, patriot, the friend of Washington. This shaft has been reared by the people of Savannah in honor of his great services to the American Revolution. And then we see stamped in there, William E. Wilson, portrait and landscape photographer. We see J. Gardner, photographs and curiosities. Again, that address, 118 Broughton Street at the corner of Bull, where a lot of these photographers were in business in the same building. And so, yeah, I mean, Jerome Wilson, who died in 1897, a year after this photo was taken, he is still lingering about in the city. And so these gentlemen knew each other. We don't know necessarily right now if they were related, but Tina Wilson, the great-granddaughter, looking into that a little bit. But I think it's interesting that there were two big shots, you know. I mean, there were several big shots. You had DJ Ryan, Goebel and Lowney, although DJ Ryan and J.N. Wilson are really the two, bosses, if you will, of photography in town in my mind. But this guy was clearly gifted. Again, he died in 1904. I think he later moved to New York, and so that's why we don't necessarily associate him with Savannah a lot. But check out his Wikipedia page. It's a really interesting history, and apparently he's well collected. So I was really honored to get this from a collector friend of mine, and can't wait to add it to the growing museum. But guys, hope you liked that or found that enjoyful. Is that a word? That is not a word. But I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks for hanging out for a minute. If you want to learn more, just stay here and tune with Grave Talks. And of course, we have the Great Bonaventure Cemetery Facebook page, the Bonaventure Cemetery Instagram, and just lots of things forthcoming. And yeah, if you're ever around Savannah, we've got great tours too that deep dive a lot of this kind of thing for the history nerds and the Taphophiles. You can go to shannonscotttours.com. You can also hire me privately for private tours. I do a lot more private tours now than public. And I take people all over creation. And so hope you'll check out those websites and stay in touch with us. But thanks for staying around for a few minutes today and indulging these nerdy kind of passions. So stay blessed out there and keep following us and share with others. Thanks.